Hey, it's Anna. Welcome, beautiful people. Today, we're talking about what exactly are the Akashic Records. It's something that I've fallen completely in love with, and I absolutely adore being in them and using them in my everyday life. So, let's just dive in. So, to me, the records are something that is ancient, but it's being made new again. They're coming up, and so many beautiful individuals have their own way of accessing them, whether it's through prayer or a different way, and it's just being modernized. It's being made available for all of us to use, and with good reason. So we'll get into how it could really benefit us as we go down the rabbit hole, so to speak. But if we were to really go through, the beginning and talk about definitions, Akasha means in Sanskrit the ether, and in Hindi it's more like the sky or the heaven. So when we think about, so this is kind of how I've come to really wrap my mind around it. If we subscribe to the idea that Source created souls for us to be able to go out there and have all these experiences and figure out, hey, if I do this, this happens, and, just experience itself. It kind of would make sense to me that there would be a place where it would store this information because, maybe it actually wants to know. So in a way, all of the Akashic Records is energy where information about your soul is stored. Your soul's every decision that it has ever made, everything about it, decision, thoughts, feelings, energies it's been going through, it's all stored somewhere in this place called the Akashic Records. So because we're dealing with information, the easiest way for, my little human brain to picture it is when it was described to me either as a huge library, because traditionally that's where a lot of knowledge is kept, or even the internet as we know it today, because there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of information on the internet today, right? And it's kind of a similar way because, if you think about it, it stores information from your soul's creation all the way up until now about everything that has ever happened. So we can access that very strategically. I will say, though, that the same way you walk into a library, you don't know everything in that library just because you went in there. You still have to read the books, right? And largely, if you have something in mind, so I do believe everybody, you're constantly creating something in your life, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. You're constantly making choices leading you to a certain path, right? And a lot of it is irrelevant to you. Like if you walk into a library and you have no desire to learn about children's bedtime stories because maybe your kids don't want that, or you don't have kids, or you just don't need that information, well, you're not going to go in that section of the library. You're not going to pick up that book, right? So even within your own book, if your own soul was its own little library within this big library, you wouldn't necessarily go to a place that will necessarily have the information that you need for what you are doing right now with your life. So I'm just going to put it out there because that's a lot of information. Same thing, the way that the internet goes. If you were just to type in a search word, let's say school, well, you're going to get a lot of, hits back, but it's so not specific. So if you were to type in, let's say, daycare or grade 1 school or best grade 1 schools in, the city that you live in, that's a little bit more specific and you're going to get more relevant information. So think about the Akashic Records kind of in this context as well, in terms of where information and knowledge is concerned. So to me, the Akashic Records are really another access point in the spirit world. So many of us are familiar with contacting our own intuition, our higher self, our own soul, seeking guidance and figuring out what is it that we want to do in certain situations or whatnot. Some of us talk to our spirit guides, our guardian angels, or angels, and all sorts of other beings that maybe you relate to that are here to help you. But the Akashic Records really are an access point where it's more of a neutral information about your soul versus talking to your soul directly. So it's not skewed per se. It's just what is, which is kind of amazing in itself. So then the question kind of comes up of, can you access your own? And I really believe that absolutely everybody can access their own. You know, when we started this conversation, I said that it's something ancient being made new again. And perhaps once upon a time, it was perceived that only a select few had the ability, or were only able to go, or it was reserved for special ones, type of thing. And you know, I honestly, when you look at the world and how we had evolved as a species, when you think about the choices that were available to us 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, you know, we were really limited in what we actually could do and how we can live our lives. Even if we were to borrow Maslow's hierarchy and really put it in perspective, there's a large part of humans that are living right now that really have that bit of a luxury to focus on things other than survival needs, other than gathering food, making sure you have shelter, making sure you have a space that is safe. So more and more of us have this luxury to be able to move towards bigger questions like, oh, who am I? What am I here for? What is my purpose? How can I be of service? How can I do things better? How can I develop myself? Right? You don't have necessarily the space for that when you're just worried about what you're going to eat next. And so I'm just going to put it out there that we do live in a world where a lot more choices have become available. And I do believe that because of that, we all have just a little bit more space available to us to take a moment, to breathe, and be able to connect with our higher self, the Akashic Records, our own soul, and have that either in meditation or in our contemplation sessions. So definitely, I believe everybody can access it. So that kind of leaves us to the whole point that it's great that there's this place where there's a whole bunch of information, but how can that help me today in living my life and trying to get through my day-to-day tasks, right? To survive, to make, to pay my bills, to take care of my kids, to be there for my family, and do all the things that we're responsible for doing. So here's the thing. I really do believe that true healing from whatever it is that you're going through or whatever happens to be bothering you takes new action. You have to do something new and something different. Unfortunately, in our physical world, physical actions is what speaks the loudest energetically. It's not just thinking about it anymore. But more than that, I believe that there really comes a time in everybody's life where you feel like you just can't hide who you are. Like you just need to unwrap it and unravel it. Like there's just something agitated inside of you. Almost like if you had a straitjacket on, like you need to take it off. You need to let it out. You need to let your voice out. You need to let yourself be who you truly are. And I do think one of the gifts that the pandemic had given us is this collectively, we're all going through this process of deciding what fits me right now. What can I tolerate in this life? What can I not tolerate? What is working? What is not working? What changes are available to be made? So it's really giving us this like moment in time where we can question our existing structures, whether it's through our work, through our jobs, how we organize, even teaching the children. Everything is kind of becoming a question mark, and is this beautiful opportunity to look and see, hey, can I change it? Can I change this? To what can I change this? Right? And I think, so just to kind of tie it back into this whole, Akashic Records thing, I think it's beautiful that we can have a minute to think about what new actions we want to take. And this is where this whole idea of manifesting what you want sort of kind of ties in. So I'll get to that in a little bit as well. But first, I want to go back a little bit and say part of the information that you can access in the Akashic Records, and this is what I do when I have one-on-one sessions, is we look at how your soul was built, what energies were present, what traits, what characteristics. It's hard when you say like, who am I? And you say, I am. And then usually you add, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm, like fill in the blanks, what your job is, like, and all that sort of stuff. But it's harder to describe like truly your essence. So we do our best to put words to it. And we pull in traits and we pull in certain behaviors that feel good. And we go all the way down the rabbit hole, because what you express is just one side of the coin. There's a positive and the duality, right? The positive and negative, the flip side as well. So we look at the spectrum of how your soul expresses itself best, how it feels the most alive as it's going through the motions of living. And it's amazing information to know. Honestly, this is one of my favorite part when I have one-on-one sessions and I talk about this with my clients, because it is incredibly validating. I feel that sometimes there's a couple of camps, but like the two main ones are the people that kind of really know who they are and the people that kind of don't. So for me personally, I was in the camp that there was just so much dust. I did not really ever kind of feel in my life that I had the opportunity to truly say, all the way from when I was younger, like born type of younger, to really let myself out. There was always a couple of obstacles that I have been working through. Some were warranted, some kept me safe. But it's time for that change, right? So all that to say that maybe there's some of you that fall into camp where you may have forgotten, or you're not 100% sure what is you anymore. What is coming from inside versus what is something that you've learned versus what is a coping mechanism versus what is something that, hey, is just socially acceptable to be that way. So when you start to kind of dig in and explore that, this part is absolutely phenomenal when you learn about your blueprint, because it just reawakens and you just know. And it's incredibly validating as well, not only for that, but if you kind of already know who you are and have a good sense of like yourself, it's incredibly validating to know that you're on the right track, right? That you're not going to necessarily be wasting your time trying to express something that is really not you. So that is the best part, to look into records about, and kind of, it's almost like a shortcut. That's how I see it. It's a shortcut to getting that part down. And you may wonder, why is it so important to know yourself? Well, if you think of like change, or this idea of change management, or when you want to manifest or work through a shadow pattern, or even just choices every day. Should I have the salad or the hamburger type of thing, right? The cookie or the apple, that kind of decision making. When you know what is going to bring you best into that alignment, those kind of decisions become just a lot easier. But it all starts with, so this is my kind of like process that I use for everything, working through all of my shadow patterns, all of my negative things. You have to bring awareness. You have to bring consciousness to how it's actually impacting you. You have to integrate it. So you got to decide, am I going to work with this, or am I going to release it? And then finally, you have to take that new action. So that first piece, that awareness, is just incredibly powerful, whether you're learning or rediscovering, I should say, or even just validating who you are. That complete awareness is just wonderful, whether you're doing it for that purpose or looking deeper when you're uncovering things, right? Awareness is always the first place that we start. So I talked a little bit about manifesting, and I just want to move back to that, because so it's great that you know who you are, but even then, how does that help you in your everyday? So the way I kind of see it is, if we're constantly creating our reality, we're constantly doing something. So we're constantly creating something, right? Whether we're aware of it or not. But when you choose, for example, hey, I want to have a better relationship with my child. I want to have a deeper connection to my partner. I want to have a little bit more success in my career. I want to, turn around this project at work that has been just going sideways forever. So whatever is coming up in your life that you need to deal with, or you want to change, or you're being called to maybe let go, bring something new, or just change, right? This word change, it comes up all the time because it's really the only constant thing in life, right? But think about it this way. You are not, when you're moving through a change, right? Let's take the example that you're moving homes. When you're in the process of moving and you signed a lease, everything's ready to go, now you have to pack your existing home. And then you have to transport all your stuff to the new home, right? Well, in the process of packing, lots of stuff can come up. Maybe you're going to uncover things that you haven't looked at in years, and they're going to maybe bring up memories. Maybe you have to decide to let them go or take them with you. Maybe you know for a fact they will not fit in the new space. So you got to make that call to get rid of it, sell it, donate it, all the things. All that to say that even as, by the time you move it all the way to your new home, lots of things can happen, right? Do you have enough movers? Is the truck going to have gas? Is it one of those rickety rackety trucks that barely has brakes on that you're like scared for your life to drive it to the new place, right? How many trips are you going to need to do? Who's going to watch the kids while we're doing it? It's just a lot of stuff to coordinate from going from house A to house B. And it's the exact same thing when you're trying to manifest anything new, a new job. You're in job A, trying to go into job B. This process can also be viewed as you're in vibration A and you're trying to go to a different vibration B. And anything in between, that's when stuff just comes up. And that stuff, they're not tests to see if you're worthy or obstacles you have to overcome or lessons your soul needs to learn. It's none of that. It's just energy, right? As you're trying to make your way from A to B, to vibration B, things that no longer can be upheld in vibration B, that their vibration doesn't match, that stuff is going to come up. And that's what you could call whatever feels good, whether it's your shadow patterns, karmic patterns, all of that sort of stuff will come up. And the beautiful thing with the Akashic Records is that you can go in and sort of get this beautiful validation or even uncover. Sometimes we feel that, hey, something is, it's just not quite right. I don't know what it is. But we don't know even how to pinpoint it necessarily. And the records can really give us some pretty detailed information about where to look at and how to make these navigating decisions as we go from one vibration state to the other. So anytime you have to navigate a change, the records are amazing just to be able to help point you in the right direction and help you deal with these obstacles in a way that is in a way that is the most beneficial for you to get through it, right? So I'm gonna leave you with this thought and this belief that I have that for me, spirituality is not about having your head in the clouds and meditating all day. While that can be beautiful and there's a million and one practices that you can add to it. Ultimately, to me, spirituality is about figuring out your spiritual side, your mental side, your emotional side, and your physical side, your body. And really integrating that, becoming aware of all these parts of you and having them work together to help you move through life and in a happy, joyful way. That has always been my end goal, and that is going to be something I'm going to push towards a lot. But it's really about, hey, we're here in this physical reality, and we could either choose to be miserable or choose to have a little play, a little bit of fun with it, and approach it with the sense of curiosity. But once we integrate all of the things, that's when everything seems to line up. And whether it's good or bad, it's okay, because we just take it as an experience and we know we can get ourselves through it and out of it. So I'll leave you with that thought about what the Akashic Records are. If you are feeling called for, reach out to me. I'll leave some links for you. Come do a reading with me. It's going to be so incredibly amazing, and we're going to have such a good time together going over all the things that make up you. And so with that, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.